Ever feel like your fantasy football team is stuck in a rut, despite your best efforts to build a winner? It happens to even the most seasoned managers, and often, the underlying issues are more common than you think. Identifying these pitfalls is the first step toward turning your season around and building a truly competitive roster. Common weaknesses in a fantasy team typically fall into categories like a lack of depth at key positions, poor management of the waiver wire, ignoring weekly player matchups, an over-reliance on just one or two star players, and a failure to adapt to injuries or the bye-week schedule. Recognizing these vulnerabilities allows you to address them proactively, transforming your team from a contender to a champion. These weaknesses emerge for several key reasons. A lack of depth often stems from overlooking backup options during the draft or making short-sighted trades, leaving your team vulnerable to injuries or the dreaded bye-week crunch. Poor waiver wire management frequently comes from not dedicating enough time to research available free agents or from reacting too slowly to breaking news, missing out on valuable talent. Ignoring weekly matchups can lead to benching high-upside players in favorable situations or starting players against elite defenses simply because they are familiar names. An over-reliance on a few stars puts immense pressure on those players, meaning a single bad game or an unexpected injury can decimate your weekly score, especially if you haven't diversified your roster. Finally, failing to adapt means stubbornly sticking to your preseason strategy, even when circumstances change dramatically, which is a recipe for missed opportunities and consistent underperformance. To address these issues, begin by conducting a weekly roster audit, which involves a thorough review of your team's strengths and weaknesses against your opponents. Evaluate your bench players not just for their name recognition, but for their immediate upside and their ability to fill in during bye weeks or injuries. Actively scour the waiver wire multiple times throughout the week, especially before games, to capitalize on emerging opportunities and pick up players whose target share or snap count is increasing. Before setting your lineup, always compare your players' individual matchups against their opponent's defensive strengths and weaknesses. You can also actively seek out trade opportunities to convert surplus talent at one position into needed depth or an upgrade at another, spreading out your scoring potential. One crucial yet often overlooked insider detail is understanding the concept of a handcuff for your elite running backs. Drafting their direct backup can instantly mitigate the risk of injury to your top performer. Another valuable tactic is to strategically target players with a favorable playoff schedule during the midseason, providing a significant advantage when it matters most. These subtle moves can dramatically improve your team's resilience and scoring ceiling. Ultimately, recognizing and addressing these common weaknesses transforms your team from reactive to proactive, building a more robust and flexible roster capable of weathering the unpredictable storms of a fantasy football season. By staying vigilant, adapting to change, and making informed decisions, you will significantly increase your chances of dominating your league and hoisting that championship trophy.